We've been talking about it for months, years in some cases. It has nothing to do with COVID, but there is a serious illness that is spreading across America. There's no vaccine, and we have no idea where it came from. We cannot confirm whether or not it came from a lab. Patient 0 has not been identified, but it is highly contagious. It's known outside of medical circles as something called Trump Derangement Syndrome. Perhaps you've heard of it. The president has even been made aware of this ailment, although we're told he has natural immunity.
They've lost their mind. They are so deranged. They have Trump Derangement Syndrome. And I don't want to burn the Republican Party with it, but they really are. They've become almost sick. They actually think there is a disease. It's called Trump Derangement Syndrome. They've got it.
The symptoms for Trump Derangement Syndrome are very easy to spot. The list includes items like this, but not limited to living in denial, being oddly pro-Ukraine and pro-Palestine, love for crime, mask wearing now, trans sports supporter, turning help down, blindness to problems. We'll get to most of those. Another symptom that has only recently come into focus is wearing really oversized black eyeglasses, preferably with a short men's crop haircut. If you know someone with one or all of these symptoms, they have most likely been afflicted with this condition, TDS. Although doctors have not recommended that you stay 6 feet apart from these people at this time, we'll keep an eye on that, but there is no cure. Although we do believe that watching this show and others will help over time detoxify the body and aid with an increase in something called common sense that people with TDS seem to have very little of. TDS is out there right now. Just recently, several in the media and on social media afflicted with TDS tried to convince the public that Donald Trump was dead because he hadn't been seen in a few days. That is TDS. And members of the media would rather run with wild, unsubstantiated stories instead of covering what Donald Trump is actually doing, and even scarier, what he's actually accomplishing. Here is CNN's coverage of the Chinese military parade in China yesterday.
We're watching live pictures tonight, right now, a massive parade underway in Beijing as the Chinese President Xi Jinping is showing off his country's arsenal and military might to the world and to the more than 24 foreign leaders who are there in person attending this military parade. What's clear to you from the message that China is trying to send tonight?
This is a message of strength. This is a message of victory.
A message of strength and victory, according to CNN. This is a military parade in China. China, arguably, our #1 adversary on the planet, but that is a message of victory and strength. Just look at all those Chinese people running around there. That's something that's called TDS, common among the remaining staff at CNN, but we did not know that CNN could also stand for the Chinese news network. Now take a look at how CNN covered the Trump military parade over the summer.
We don't need a military parade. We don't need to spend millions or maybe hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. But we want to do it because he has to feed his inner image monster.
Why is it wasteful?
It is wasteful.
Why?
It is what do we need to show off our military for? But that's strongmen do that. It has nothing to do with pride in the military. Strongmen do that because they want to make their citizens cower. They want to say, we are strong. I am here. I have all these weapons. Aren't you proud of me?
Watching that, it's like CNN is run by the CCP and not Warner Brothers here in the U.S. Watching that sounds like CNN is wholeheartedly anti-America. Yet CNN, with a straight face at one point over the summer, had to go on air and tell Americans that they do not hate America.
For the record, since we heard President Trump say in the Oval Office that CNN hates our country, CNN does not hate our country. That should go without saying.
Dana Bash, pronounced Dana there, reassuring viewers that CNN does not, in fact, hate America. CNN's reputation is so bad right now, the National Guard literally laugh in the face of a former CNN anchor who himself, we think, is deeply in the throes of TDS.
Hi guys, how are you? Hey, how are you guys? How do you feel being here? Great question.
How funny is that? That was yesterday in Washington. 10 years ago, every one of those National Guard soldiers would have stepped up to the microphone and taken questions from CNN. Now they see somebody like Don Lemon, who left CNN a long time ago. He was fired, and they laugh. They're literally laughing. And I've got to admit, we wouldn't want to talk to Don Lemon either. Trump Derangement Syndrome has even made it north of the border to Canada, to the point where a Canadian whiskey company, Crown Royal, is now moving to the United States, and Canadians are not taking it well.
And you guys are about as dumb as a bag of hammers for doing this. So, you know something? I found a bottle, and I don't even drink, of Crown Royal, right? I see that Crown Royal. I saw it at home. So this is what I think about Crown Royal. That's what they could do. And I think everyone else should do the same thing. Start supporting companies that make whiskey here.
You don't drink, Doug Ford? Also, if you're trying to get them to stay in Canada, that's probably not the best way to go about it. But this also means something very important. Donald Trump is now making Canadian whiskey, maybe the most famous Canadian whiskey, great again by making it here in America. Think about that. Think about how embarrassing that is for people like Doug Ford and the great nation of Canada. Donald Trump is also embarrassing Democrat governors and mayors who are also suffering from TDS, we think. There's no blood test for TDS. We're just using our eyes like we were with Joe Biden. All because Donald Trump wants to make many of these states and cities safer.
Washington, D.C. is a totally safe city. You're not reporting any crime because there is none. They said crime is down 87%, and I said, no, it's not. It's down 100%. We have a great thing going. I could do that with Chicago. We could do that with New York. We could do it with Los Angeles. So we're making a determination now. Do we go to Chicago, or do we go to a place like New Orleans, where we have a great governor, Jeff Landry, who wants us to come in?
Isn't that interesting? A Republican governor wants the National Guard to go to New Orleans, one of the best cities in America. But New Orleans has the third highest murder rate in the country. Chicago, by far, #1. But that might have something to do with the leadership in the city of New Orleans, not in the State House. The Democrat mayor of New Orleans fell in love with her bodyguard. His name was Vappy, and was just indicted for defrauding the city of New Orleans. And that's just another example of why Democrat-run cities, many of them are falling apart. It's also a symptom of Trump Derangement Syndrome. Chicago is another city that's getting entirely too much attention, but leaders in Chicago don't think they have a crime problem, and they don't want help either.
If he comes to Chicago, he's going to be in court, and he's going to be sued by the state, he's going to be sued by the city, and I believe that there will be private interests that also sue him. This is not about violent crime, and I don't think we should pretend that this manufactured crisis and his attempt to provoke people in Chicago is legitimate exercise of power. It is not.
This past weekend, the numbers in Chicago, shocking. Over 50 people were shot, 9 people were killed in dozens of shootings. And the former mayor, the telegenic Lori Lightfoot, thinks that 37 separate shootings in Chicago in just 3 days, by the way, is a manufactured crisis. No, that's a war zone, Lori. But she thinks it's not real, meaning she can't see the violence in her own city because she is blinded by TDS. But how can we expect any of these people to understand any of this when they don't even understand how our government is supposed to function?
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
That was Tim Kaine. Remember Tim Kaine? That was Hillary Clinton's running mate, and he doesn't seem to understand the Declaration of Independence, which states that rights come from God, not from people like Tim Kaine, who will, for the rest of his life, like Tim Waltz, be the answer to a trivia question that nobody gets right. The left doesn't understand this. They refuse to accept basic truths. They want you to believe that you get your rights from them, Democrats in the federal government, not God. They want you to believe that there is no crime problem, even though cities look like war zones in this country. They lied about our open borders, and the list goes on and on. Just like Donald Trump's health this past weekend. They wanted us to believe that he had died. They'll believe any lie, any fairy tale, no matter how absurd it is. And while we call this Trump Derangement Syndrome, there is no way to properly diagnose what's going on. But we think that TDS is the problem, and that this is what's taken over many in our culture.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.